Good morning, everyone. In a previous lecture of the nanotechnology and surface engineering, we have started our discussion on some basic information regarding the scanning electron microscope. In that one, we have seen that what we can study from the SEM. So from that scanning electron microscope, through this one, we can understand the topography and morphology of material. We can also identify the chemical composition of the material. We can see the crystallography structure and orientation of material. And this is why the SEM analysis, which is widely used in many industrial application to find out various properties of metals. Then we have discussed about the comparison between optical microscope and electron microscope. So in optical microscope, we have the source of illumination will be the light, while here the electrons are used to instead of light to generate an image. Then here the lens type will be glass lens are used, while in electron microscope we have a electromagnetic lens. Then magnification. So magnification can be changed by moving the lens, while here focal length is charged by changing the current through that lens, and that's how we get the magnification. Then here eyepiece is used, while here we have a fluorescent screen or a digital camera is used to view the sample. And finally, the most important thing, vacuum. In optical microscope, we do not use any vacuum system, but here the in electron microscope, the entire path of this electron, this entire part of the electron gun from ground to the camera, that must be under the vacuum. So this is the most important difference between this optical microscope and electron microscope. And then we have seen the diagram of the optical microscope and electron microscope, and this is the component of SEM, and here we can see that this whole silver color is showing a vacuum chamber, and from this gun to this whole system of up to this one is under the vacuum, and the whole path of the electron which is under the vacuum chamber. And this is the schematic diagram. Here we have electron gun, anode, magnetic lens, scanning coils. We have a backscatter electron detector, secondary electron detector, and this is the specimen. And the specimen is fixed on a stage, and from this one we get the electrons, and that electrons is transferred to the some display device, and this is how we can get the image. Then we have started our discussion on components of SEM. So first component is the electron gun, lenses, scanning coils, sample chamber, detectors, vacuum chamber, and aperture. Then electron guns. So generally the electron guns are used to produce electrons, and to produce that electron, various filaments is used. Okay, so the filament used is generally of tungsten filament, there are lanthanum, hexaboride. In some cases it will be FEG, field emission gun. The tungsten filament, which is having a very low cost as compared to these two, and which is easy to maintain. That's why this tungsten filament is widely used in many SEM application as a gun. As compared to tungsten filament, this lanthanum hexaboride gun having a longer life, and it also gives a brighter and cohesive beam. So when we want to highlight a beam at a very small channel, in that case we can use this lanthanum hexaboride type electron gun. And this FEG, field electron gun, is the base type gun, and but it is the very expensive and it is very hard to maintain it. That's why it is rarely used in SEM analysis, but depends upon the requirement, it is used in many cases. So in that one, the design of the gun, here we have these filaments, then we have this shield and the anode. So this combination of all these is known as a electron gun of SEM. So here you can see that electron gun will will in this direction, in like this. So as we supply the current through that electron gun, thermoelectrons are emitted, and that thermoelectrons that may be uh, accelerated through this anode, and where these thermoelectrodes having a very small uh, diameter, that point is considered as a crossover, and at that crossover we have a diameter of that beam, electron beam, is only 15 micrometer. So it is very small diameter, and that's why that is very important to generate that particular thermoelectric uh, crossover into that SEM analysis. Then we have started our discussion on lens, okay, and from this point we have stopped our last lecture, so we will start from this. So in lenses we have two types of lens: condenser lens and objective lens. So what the condenser lens will do, it will determine the number of electron in the beam which hit the sample by reducing the diameter of the electron beam. So what it will do? It will determine the number of electrons. How many numbers of electrons that are going to hit the sample. Okay, there are numbers of electrons, but out of them, how many numbers of electrons that are going to be hit on the sample, and it will reduce the diameter. So here, if you see the diagram of this objective lens over here, condenser lens over here. So these are the uh, beam of electrons which is coming from that electron gun. Now that beam, electron beams, that will be reduced in diameter due to this effect. Okay, so how that effect is generated, that what we are going to discuss. But what the condenser will do, it will reduce the diameter of that electron beam and concentrate all them so that it will be hit on a particular point on the specimen. So this is the use of condenser lens. And objective lens changes the position of the point at which the electrons are focused on a sample. Okay, so this is the sample. So at which point we are going to focus, here or here or here. So it will change the position of the point on at which the electrons are focused on a sample. So this is the use of condenser lens and objective lens. So condenser lens is focus the beam onto the specimen, while objective lens either provide the first magnification in TEM okay, transmission electron microscope, or focus the beam to a point that scan across the specimen using the scanning coil in SEM. So in the objective lens will solve two purpose in two different machine. In TEM it will generate your first magnification, okay, it will provide the first magnification. In transmission electron microscope, okay, we are going to see in our upcoming lecture transmission electron microscope. While in SEM it will focus the beam to a point that scan across the specimen using the coils. So in both the two different equipment, the objective lens purpose is different. Then an electron microscope generally uses a magnetic lens. Okay, so here the word comes is a magnetic lens. The electron microscope generally uses a magnetic lens. And when you pass a direct electric current through a coil wound electric wire, a rotationally symmetric magnetic field is formed. Okay, rotationally symmetric electric magnetic field is formed, and a lens action is produced on a electron beam. Okay, so here as you can see, this is the whatever these lines, okay, pink lines, that is nothing but it is the electromagnetic rotationally magnetic field. Okay, and due to that rotationally magnetic field, that electrons are deflected and their diameter will reduce. Okay, so this is how it will done. Okay? And if you see the cross section over here, so you can see like this. Okay, there are number of coils. Okay, there are number of coils, and that when we pass the current through that oil, they will produce electromagnetic field, and that field that will reduce the diameter of the electron. They will deflect, and due to that deflection, the diameter of the uh, electron beam that can be reduced. To take a strong magnetic lens with a short focal length, it is necessary to increase the density of the magnetic line. Okay, so how we can make a strong magnetic lens? How we can make a strong magnetic lens? With increase the density of the magnetic line. And as you can see in the figure, the surrounding of the coil are enclosed by a yoke. Okay, so this is the surrounding of the coil, which is surrounding of this is the coil. Okay, so and these coils are surrounded by the yoke. Okay, this is the yoke, whatever this gray one is the yoke, so that the part of magnetic field leaks from the narrow gap. So here we have a narrow gap, and a portion with a narrow gap called as a pole piece. So this area, which is termed as a pole piece, is fabricated with a high accuracy. Why this accuracy is required? Because the gap which is or the which provides the purpose to generate a high density magnetic lines. Okay, and the main feature of this magnetic lens is that when you change the current passing through the coil, the strength of the lens is changed. Okay, and this is not achieved by an optical lens. Okay, so this is the main thing. When you change the current passing through that coil, the strength of the lens is changed. So how that strength of the change is lens is changed? Because as the density of the current or the current value is changed, according to that the magnetic field generated, that is affected, because the amount of current passing through that gap of the coil, that may reduce, and according to that the magnetic field also affected, so that it will affect the final reduction of these coils, final reduction of the beam. Okay, while in a magnetic lens, while in optical lens, it that reduction of the optical rays, that is only done by the lenses. Okay, in that one we have only a glass lens, while here we have a magnetic lens. Then condenser or objective lens. So first one means this is the construction of this lens. Then uh, placing a lens below the electron gun enables you to adjust the diameter of the electron beam. A fine electron beam is required for the SEM. So this is the crossover point. Okay, what is crossover? We have already discussed over here. This is the crossover point. Okay, so from this crossover point, these beams that is concentrated, so that is done by the condenser lens. So placing the lens below the electron gun enables you to adjust the diameter of the electron beam. Okay, so we have to adjust the diameter of the electron beam. And what is our requirement? A fine electron beam is required for the SEM. Here, the figure shows that the information of the fine electron probe. Okay, two-stage lenses which combine the condenser and objective lens and located below the electron gun. So here you can see that this A and B. Okay, that's a major difference. Here you can find the distance of B here. You can see, and the distance of B over here. So have this condenser lens that will important, and based on that you can see the area which is covered like this. Okay, while here the area will be very small. Okay, and based on that this objective lens or how this apertures that will affect, so that we are going to see. So the electron beam from the electron gun is focused by the two-stage lens, and a small electron probe is required. So in that case we require a small electron probe. Then what is the role of the condenser lens? So if the lens action of the condenser lens is strengthened, then the electron probe become narrower. Okay, so what is the thing here? If the lens action of the condenser lens is strengthened, what happened? That the electron probe become narrower with a small ratio of B to A, B by A, small ratio of B by A. Whereas if weaken, then the electron probe becomes broader. Okay, so here if the uh, condenser is made strengthened, then what happened? That B to A ratio, B by A ratio, that will be smaller. Okay, and if the your condenser lens is weak, then the B by A ratio, so that it will become broader. So, okay, so here you can see it will become broader. The aperture is placed between the condenser lens and the objective lens. Okay, so this is our condenser lens and this is our objective lens. So between this condenser lens and objective lens we have a aperture. Okay, this is our aperture. The aperture made up of a thin metal plate has a small hole. The electron beam which passing through the condenser lens illuminate this aperture plate. Okay, so here we have a small hole in that aperture plate. We have a small hole over this aperture plate. And what the electrons will do? The electron beam which passing through the condenser lens illuminates the aperture plate. Okay, so the amount of the condenser lens, the amount of electron beam which is passing through that electron beam, that will illuminate this aperture plate. Okay, and the aperture allow a part of the electron beam to reach the objective lens. Okay, so some part of this electron beam which will be passed through that aperture and it will reach to the objective lens. If the extraction of the condenser lens is increased, if the excitation of the condenser lens is increased, the electron beam greatly broaden on the aperture. Read it properly. If the excitation of the condenser lens is increased, the electron beam greatly broadens on the aperture and therefore the number of electrons reaching the objective lens is decreased. Okay, so it is opposite. If the excitation of the condenser lens is increased, excitation of this condenser lens is increased, the electron beam greatly broadens on the aperture. So here it will greatly broaden on the aperture. It is broadened on the aperture. Therefore, the number of electrons reaching the objective lens is decreased, and that's why the number of electrons passing through this gap is decreased. While here the uh, the excitation of the condenser lens is not as high in this case, so that the uh, the number of electron which is passing through that aperture and reaching to the objective lens which is high as compared to this one. So this is how this B to A ratio. If the B to A ratio is changed according to that, the electron that will be broad and spread on the aperture, and due to that broad wide range, the number of electron which is passing through this gap of the objective lens is less. So less numbers of electron that will be reached to the objective lens. While here if we change the B to A ratio, according to that the electron beam that will be broadened in small area and large number of electrons that will be passing through that hole of the aperture and maximum electrons that will be passed to the objective lens. To the contrary, if the excitation, okay, so here the case comes, if the excitation of the condenser lens is decreased, okay, in first case it will be increased, here it will be decreased, the electron beams does not broaden very much and therefore most of the electron will pass through the aperture and many electrons reach to the objective lens. Many electrons that will be reached to the objective lens, and this is the adjustment of the excitation of the condenser lens enable you to change the electron probe diameter and the electron probe current. Okay, so how this is the adjustment of excitation of the condenser lens enable you to change the electron probe diameter and the probe current. However, even if the excitation of the condenser lens is infinitely increased, the diameter of the electron probe does not become infinitely small. Okay, so if we make it infinitely increase, okay, so still the diameter of the electron probe which does not become infinitely small. Okay, so we have certain limit and within that limit only we can increase or decrease that range of the electron probe. The objective lens is used for focusing, and this lens is very important lens that determines the final diameter of the electron probe. Okay, so now we talk about this objective lens. This is the objective lens. Okay, so what objective lens will do? The objective lens is used for focusing, and this lens is very important lens that determines the final diameter of the electron probe. And if the performance of the objective lens is not good, an optimally fine electron probe cannot be produced despite all of the efforts before the action of the objective lens. Okay, so you have a good condenser lens, you have a adjusted a very good B by A ratio, and you have a good aperture. But if your objective lens is not good, okay, so whatever the procedure you have done before, that is go into the vein, because your final concentration which is done by the objective lens. That's why the objective lens is also having a good purpose to solve what we have done earlier. Thus, it is crucial to make the objective lens with best performance. Okay, so we have to make the objective lens having a best performance. So this is the two types of lens, and their uses: objective lens and condenser lens. So if you see in this diagram here, okay, so we have this one. So now third one is a scanning coil. Okay, next one is a scanning coil. So how this scanning coil is important, so that we are going to discuss. So scanning coils are used to raster or scan the e-beam across the sample surface, and the e-beam can be scanned in a rectangular raster across the surface of the sample by means of a series of scan coils situated above the objective lens. Okay, so in between this magnetic lens and the objective lens, we have a scanning coils, and they are used to scan the e-beams across the sample surface. So this is the here we have this is scanning coil, and it will have the purpose of to this what we have discussed. It will scan. And then sample chamber. Sample chamber is a place where the samples are mounted, and generally the sample chambers located at the base of the column and the bottom of the objective lens, and various detectors which are located inside the sample chamber. So this is the use of a sample chamber. So if you see in the diagram here, this is the sample chamber. Okay, this is the sample chamber, and here you can see that this is the sample which is mounted on the base. At the same time, we have a various detector like backscatter detector or secondary detector or X-ray detector. All detectors, various detectors are mounted on the sample chamber. So this is the sample chamber, and all this is under a vacuum. Okay, so this whole is under the vacuum. Then sample chamber stage. So in general, the specimen is observed at a high magnification in electron microscope, and thus a specimen stage which probably support the specimen and move smoothly is required. Okay, so here you can see there are various motion of the specimen stage. Here we have a horizontal x, horizontal y, vertical z. Okay, same way it can tilt, or the specimen stage can rotate. So all motions which is given to the specimen stage, so that we can exactly locate the specimen to a desired place, and the uh, illumination of the uh, material which can be properly done, so that we can have a good magnified image. The specimen stage for a SEM can perform the following movement. So horizontal movement of x and y, vertical movement of z, specimen tilting, and rotation. So this is the stage, specimen stage. The x and y components are used for the selection of a field of view. Okay, so this X movement and Y movement that will select the field of a view, while the Z movement provides the change of image resolution. Why? Because the focus from that objective lens which can be adjusted by the Z movement, so that we can change the image resolution and depth of focus. So Z component is very important. It will resolve your image, as well as it will control the depth of focus. And most SEMs use the eutectic specimen stage. By the use of this stage, the observation area does not shift while tilting the specimen, and also the focus on the specimen does not change after shifting the field of view while specimen is tilted. Okay, so that's why this uh, eucentric specimen stage is used. And why it is used? Because the observation area which does not shift while tilting the specimen, and it also the focus on the specimen does not change after shifting the field of view while specimen is tilted. And in addition to a conventional manual drive stage, the use of motor drive stage has increased in recent years, because for the smooth and small change in the motion, the motor drive which is very suitable, while this manual drive, it requires certain effort to locate the specimen in exact position. And furthermore, the use of computer control specimen stages has been increased. So nowadays this computer control specimen stage is also increased. And with this stage, you can move the stage to a selected point by simply clicking a mouse, restore the stage to a desired observed point, and use more sophisticated eccentric capabilities. Okay, so this is how you can control the movement of a sample chamber. So this is how the sample chamber that will provide the purpose for easy locating of the specimen at desired location. Then next component of that SEM is detectors. So representation of a scanning electron microscope with two detectors. The in-length detector will detect the electrons from the same perspective as the source beam, while ET detector observes electron from a different angle. So here you can see there are inline detector. Okay, so we have some inline detector. This is the inline detector because the electron beams are coming through this line, and on that same line we have some back electrons, and that will be detected. So that is inline detector, while this is ET detector, where we have a backscatter and secondary electrons that will be detected. And the difference in perspective lead to the differences in image captured with the detectors. Okay, so what type of detector we are using, based on that the different perspective of the image which can be captured. And as you can see here, all these electron detectors are connected to the computer. Through that we can have a image which is generated on the display of the computer. Secondary electron detector. Okay, so this is the secondary electron detector. The secondary electron detector is used for detecting the secondary electrons emitted from the specimen, and its construction that you can see over here. Okay, so this is the secondary electrons which is uh, collected by the secondary electron detector. Okay, and scintillator Okay, so it is a fluorescent substance is coated on the tip here. This is coated on the tip of the detector, and a high voltage of about 10 kilowatt is applied to it. Okay, so high voltage electron of 10 kilowatt is applied to it, and the secondary electrons from the specimens are attached to this high voltage and then generate a light when they hit the scintillators. Okay, so this second electrons, when it will strike with the scintillators, okay, it will generate some light. Okay, and how this light is generated, because here we have supplied a very high voltage of around 10 kilowatt, and when that second electrons that will strike with the scintillators, high some light will be generated, and the second electrons from the specimens are attached to this high voltage and then generate light when they hit to the scintillators, and this light is directed to a photomultitube. Okay, photo multiplier tube through a light guide. Okay, so this is the photo multiplier tube. All these light that will go to the photo multiplier tube, then the light is converted to electrons, and these electrons are amplified as an electric signal. Okay, so whatever that light that will passing through the photomultiplier tube, again that light will be converted into some form of electrons. A supplementary electrode called as a collector is placed before the scintillators. Okay, so here we have a second collectors. Okay, is placed before the scintillators. In general, in order to help the scintillator acquire secondary reluctance, a few hundred volt is applied to the collector. Okay, so here we are applying some current to that collector also, and by changing this voltage you can control the number of secondary electrons to be collected. Okay, so how many number of secondary electron to be collected, which is depends upon the current that what we supply to that collector. And this type of detector was originally developed by Everhart and Tronley. So this detector is called as a ET detector. Okay? Okay, so that's why here this name we have ET detector. So it is based on the name of the founder. And many SEMs incorporated this detector in the specimen chamber. However, when a SEM is equipped with a strongly excited objective lens for higher resolution, a secondary electron detector is placed above the objective lens. Okay, it is placed above the objective lens, and secondary electrons are detected by utilizing the lens magnetic field. Okay, and this detector is often called as through the lens detector. Okay, so this is the second adjustment you can do. First, you can adjust the ET detector into the specimen chamber, but when we require a higher resolution. Okay, so how that higher resolution is generated? If we have a strongly excited objective lens, and in that case that secondary detector is placed above the objective lens. Okay, and secondary electrons are detected by utilizing the lens magnetic field, and this detector, which is called as a TTL, through the lens, and this one is known as a ET detector. The output signal from the secondary electrons are amplified and then transferred to the display. Okay, so whatever be these electrons, this amplifier that will amplifies and then it will transfer to a display unit. Okay, since the scanning on the display unit is synchronized with the electron probe scan, brightness variation, which depends on the number of secondary electrons, appear on the monitor screen on the display unit, thus forming SEM image. Okay, so that's by collecting all this SEM image is generated. Okay, so the scanning on the display unit is synchronized. Okay, what we have synchronized, what with the electron probe scan, means it electron probe scan, the brightness variation and the number of secondary electrons, and based on that we have this SEM image which appears on a monitor screen. And a cathode ray tube was used for many years for a display unit. Okay, so but nowadays we are using LCD display, and in general the scan speed of the electron probe can be changed in various several steps, and extremely fast scan speed is used for observation, and a slow speed is used for uh, acquisition of or saving of image. Okay, so depends upon the requirement we can change the speed of the detection. Okay, and how this image will be recorded and displayed, that we will discuss in our upcoming lecture.